Okay, enough with the history, enough with the beliefs. I have a tarot deck, how do I use it? Well, you can pretty much distill all of the above into one simple sentence. They have little pictures on them, and you read them by the way they come up in a reading. Before you begin a tarot reading, you might want to light a candle to act as a battery, providing extra energy for the reading. You might also imagine 4 pillars of white light, one in each corner of the room, for the same reason, to act as batteries. Extra energy is always good for a reading. If you use the pillars or other energy constructs, remember to take them down when you're finished, and always clear and release when you're done. To do a reading, begin by shuffling the cards. It doesn't matter how you shuffle them, though people often develop a favorite method, as long as the cards get good and mixed up and their order gets switched all around. As you're shuffling, concentrate on cleansing the cards of all previous impressions. You might visualize the cards being flushed with cleansing yellow-white light. You might also want to think, or even say something like, I cleanse you, I cleanse you, I cleanse you. This is an example of interacting with the card spirit, which we discussed above. Once you've cleansed your cards, you're ready to ask your question. The question can be as simple as the all-purpose, what do I need to know at this time, which will produce an answer relating to present or upcoming circumstances. Or the question can be much more specific. You can ask pretty much anything of the cards if you phrase it right. Cards can be used to give yes or no answers, or to describe conditions in current or future circumstances, or the unfolding of situations. They cannot, however, be easily used to pick one of several options in a single question. When several options or subjects are being considered, these should be listed separately. An example of this is the question, how will my family be? The answer to this question will be hopelessly confused unless you break down the question to deal with each separate family member, whose fortunes may be quite different. Once you have your question, get it clear in your mind and concentrate upon it. Anything that helps you to focus on the question is good. You might want to repeat the question over and over in your mind, or imagine it in visual terms, or anything that will assist your focus, for it is through focus that you communicate the question to the cards, and thence to spirit. Now shuffle the cards again, while continuing to focus on your question. Keep shuffling until the cards are good and mixed up. When it feels right, stop. Practice will make it easier to determine how long the cards need to be shuffled. If you're reading for another person, they should shuffle the cards this time, concentrating upon their question, then give you back the cards when they are done. It is traditional to cut the deck at this point. I normally hold either my left hand or both hands over the deck and open a channel to the divine energy to bless the cards. I visualize them being flooded with blue-white light. As I do this, I charge them, usually silently, to show me not the hopes and fears of this person, but show me only truth. Now, using your left hand, which represents the goddess and spirituality, cut the cards into 3 stacks, then reassemble them in a different order. Now, to obtain your answer, you must draw some cards. There are some things to be aware of, however, before you do. Many people believe that it is unlucky to read for yourself. This is nonsense. Reading for yourself can, however, be problematic. It is very difficult to have objectivity when dealing with questions that directly impact you or your loved ones. This is particularly true when you are just learning. Though the cards may give a perfectly accurate answer, you may not be able to read it properly because of your own hopes and fears. Also, though the cards are the tool through which your answer is divined, the answer comes from Spirit, who may or may not want you to have the information you are asking for at the time you are asking. If this is the case, it will often be obvious. The answers obtained will be so obtuse as to be meaningless. Consequently, when reading for yourself, you should remember this and take the results with a grain of salt. That is, use common sense in applying them. Indeed, this is good advice for all readings. Regard a reading as giving good advice which can be helpful, but do not take the reading as gospel, or you may be in for the 5 of Cups. How many cards should you draw? The number of cards that you draw and the pattern in which you lay them down is called a spread. There are many, many spreads which are in common use. Some of them are very simple and others are hopelessly complicated. There are whole books on tarot whose main virtue is in presenting different spreads which the reader may use. Some readers pride themselves upon always having the right spread for the right question. Personally, I confine myself to the spreads which follow. The simplest of all spreads is the one-card spread. There are several ways to do it. It need be no more complicated than cutting the deck in any place that feels right and reading the card that comes up. Or If you prefer, the one card may be drawn from the deck and laid upon the table. This one card will not give you much information, but sometimes it's all you need. It's not an especially good technique for a beginning student, but can be quite serviceable to a seasoned reader who has a good understanding of the cards. The card can be read according to its normal meaning. This will give you basic information as to the situation you're asking about. Many people make it a point to draw a single tarot card in this manner each morning, asking what will be the basic energy of the upcoming day. This is an excellent practice and can be very helpful in getting acquainted with the cards. A variation of this is to ask a yes or no question. The card is then read yes or no according to whether it is upright or upside down respectively. If the single card does not give you enough information, you might want to draw two more and see if that helps. I learned this spread under the name Las Vegas Quickie Reading, but have in fact found it to be very useful. As you might imagine from the name, this spread requires 3 cards. These may be obtained by cutting the deck into 3 stacks, or by selecting 3 cards at random. The 3 cards are then interpreted together. Sometimes they represent a sequential situation, each one leading to the next, but more often they should be interpreted as blending their meanings to refer to a single situation. For example, the Knight of Wands, 8 of Pentacles, and the 6 of Pentacles might be taken to indicate a need for greater focus and application of knowledge which the querent already possesses, which will attract needed help or assistance. This is another spread which some people like to do for themselves each morning to divine the character of the upcoming day. A variation on this spread, which will provide more detailed information, is to repeat it 3 or 4 times for a single question, thus yielding 9 to 12 cards. Depending upon what they yield, these cards might be taken as all referring to a single situation or a success of events in a chain resulting from the initial situation. The Celtic cross is certainly the most popular of tarot spreads currently in use. The term Celtic cross refers to the equal armed cross, the solar cross, which represents the 4 directions and the 4 elements, or physical existence. To perform a Celtic cross spread, draw the needed cards one at a time at random. The first card goes in the center. This card represents the basic energy of the querent situation, as regards the question. The second card is laid across the first. This card represents any obstacles to the querent's objectives in the question. Now place one card above, to the north, so to speak. This card is the past, things which have led the querent to their current situation regarding the issue at question. Now place a card to the right, as if to the east. This card represents the immediate future, what is about to happen regarding the situation. Next, place a card below, as if to the south. This card represents the querent's desire regarding the question. This desire may or may not be fully conscious. Sometimes the desire will come up as failure, in which case the querent has seriously crossed mental wires regarding what they truly want to happen in the situation. Now lay a card to the left, as to the west. This represents the best that can be hoped for from the situation. This is by no means what will come, but is the best that can come, the highest potential. Now, to the right side, lay out 4 cards. These represent as follows: where the querent is now regarding the question, the querent's current conditions. What will be around the querent as this situation unfolds? What conditions will influence the querent? What emotions the querent will primarily feel in reaction to the situation. And finally, the most likely outcome of the situation. It sometimes follows that the most likely outcome may appear better than the best possible outcome. What this means is that the situation is likely to succeed, but may not be the best course for the querent. In addition, 3 more cards may be drawn to add extra information of a general character. It should be noted that there are a number of variations on the Celtic cross spread, in which the cards have slightly different meanings. You can discover this through your own research and decide what works best for you. The Zodiac Spread is meant to show the general conditions for the year ahead. It requires 14 cards, 1 for each month from the time of the reading, and 2 for the general energy of the year. The first card is placed at the center, and it represents the prevailing energy the querent will encounter in the year ahead. The second card crosses the first, and should be laid upon, across, or beside it. The second card represents the principal lesson or lessons, which will be placed before the querent by Spirit during this time. These lessons may appear to be blockages or obstacles to overcome, but are sent by Spirit to stimulate needed growth. Now, lay out the remaining 12 cards in a circle around the first 2. Each card represents 1 month, and shows the principal circumstances or events of that month. If clarification is needed, additional cards may be selected at random and added alongside the card for more information. For a YesNo Spread, you need either 3 or 5 cards. You obtain them either by cutting the deck into the appropriate number of stacks and taking the first card off the top, or by drawing them at random. The answer is obtained by analyzing the number of cards which are upright versus the number which are upside down. If more are upright, the answer is yes. If more are upside down, the answer is no. In addition, the specific cards can be read to give information about the conditions surrounding the situation. These then are the basic spreads which I recommend. There are literally hundreds of others, far more than I choose to use, let alone relate here. There is a tarot spread for every temperament and every occasion. You may find that you want to learn more spreads, and if so, a little independent tarot research will yield any number of books containing any number of spreads. Personally, I find simplest is best. Once you've completed your reading, you should clear the cards again, as you did to start with, and also clear and release excess energy from yourself. This is especially important if you're reading for someone else, but should be done even if you are reading for yourself. A final comment on reading technique. Readings can be remarkably accurate, but they're not always. The wise take the results of a psychic reading with a grain of salt, and use common sense in applying them. A psychic reading, whether by tarot or any other means, constitutes a kind of advice, which, like other advice, should be considered on its merits. Any number of variables can interfere with a reading's accuracy, so you should judge the information a reading gives in light of common sense, and whether circumstances seem to support it as the situation goes forward. This is only practical.